get you. So Roy Hallums, it's a pleasure to have you here. You are the impetus for this podcast in a large part because of a book that I've been working on for 20 plus years, Stop and Start many times, Into the Lion's Den. And it's Into the Lion's Den because of what happened in Iraq, right? Obviously, you and I spent a lot of time there. And you were in hell, in beyond a lion's den, in a hellhole for almost a year. You were a face I looked at every day for 311 days until we brought you home. So really excited to have you here. And well, starters, Roy, just kind of introduce yourself, where you're from, and a little bit about your background, and talk about your Navy career and how you ended up in Iraq in 2004.
Okay. Well, I'm Roy Hallums. I was lived originally in Memphis, Tennessee, went to school there, went in the Navy, served in the Navy 20 years. And then after the Navy, I went to work in Saudi Arabia for the Saudi Arabian Navy. And from there, I went to Iraq, Baghdad, all around the country, actually, working with U.S. Army and Marines, setting up bases for when the personnel showed up, so they all have a place to live. And after I'd been in Iraq for about a year, I was in our offices, and a local kidnap gang came in and took me and 6 other people out of the office area. So,
and it was November 1st, 2004.
Ramadan.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, you knew that the kidnapping crisis, right? You were very familiar that kidnapping had become a threat. Not when when did you first get into Iraq? When did you start the contract with SATCO?
It was 2004. Well, we knew things were kind of rough in Iraq, but we, like everybody else, thought Iraq was going to calm down and there would be reconstruction and rebuilding of Iraq. And we were wrong. Everybody was wrong.
Had you increased your security profile? Like, did you hire more guards? Did you go to like an up armored vehicle when you were traveling?
Yes. Well, we didn't have an armored vehicle, but there were always 4 of us in a vehicle. We were always armed. And in our offices, we had hired 6 former Iraqi police to be guards on the first floor, because it was a 2-story house. And so we thought the safest place we could be would be in our office with our guards and everybody working in the office.
Right.
So,
do you think, were they on duty when you were kidnapped? Do you think?
Yes. What happened was it was Ramadan. During Ramadan, Muslims can't eat or smoke or drink anything during daylight hours. And as soon as sunset comes, everybody goes and sits down and has a big meal together. So what happened is one of the guards, who turned out to be involved, told the other guards, well, you go in the kitchen and start preparing the meal. I'll go out to the gate, because the building had a fence around it and a metal gate. He says, I'll go out to the gate and guard while you're preparing the meal. So they all leave. As soon as they leave, he goes to the gate, opens the gate, lets 20 gang members in that take over the building and kidnap me.
So he was part of it.
Yes.
Of course. Yeah. We found there's almost an inside connection.
Yes.
Yeah. So were you in Baghdad when the Nick incident and beheading happened?
Yes.
So what was what happened when you saw that video in the news about what happened to Nick Berg?
Well, I mean, that was terrible. It's one of those things. We thought, well, that it happens now and then, but it's relatively rare. And like everybody else, you think, well, that's not going to happen to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, I was wrong, but that's what we were thinking.
Yeah. That's insane. Well, so I was in Baghdad when you were kidnapped, right? I got there about a month after the Nick Berg beheading, got asked to stand up, come up with a solution to this kidnapping crisis by Ambassador James Jeffries, and I eventually formed the hostile working group. Initially had FBI it's, intelligence community, obviously, NCIS was involved. I mean, there were 7 in the very first, and it included an Iraqi cop, to be honest, who ended up turning out to be, he went to the scene. He went to where the incident happened in some of the photographs. And again, someone was killed. One of the guards or someone was killed.
One of the gang members.
Killed
one of our guards was killed. One of the gang members was killed.
Okay. They did get in a shootout.
Yes.
Before or after they grabbed you?
Well, they had taken me and put me in a car, and I was actually gone. But my friends who were next door heard what was going on. They jumped from house to house. The houses there are like 3 feet apart. And they were shooting at the gang from the roof, and the gang was shooting back from the street because my friends thought I was still in the house. But in reality, I was gone.
Right.
They didn't know that. But during that shootout, gang member was killed and one of our guards was killed.
Did you? Well, yeah, you want to know. I was just curious what if they ever did like a DNA testing on the gang member, like what tribe or family is from, to kind of figure out what gang.
I know they did DNA on the farmhouse where I was being held.
I'm the one I'm the one who took the FBI out there. Okay. I literally got the RCO's helicopters 4 hours after you rescued. We went back out on the day you were rescued, and we collected intelligence. They did the sensitive site exploitation, and they grabbed forensics. They were grabbing downstairs, and they grabbed the sardine cans and some of the food. They were basically getting prints. They're trying to get prints and other
that's what I was told, that they did the forensics on the house, but I never knew any more details than that about what they actually found out from what they found. Because later on, when I was back in Memphis, they wanted all of my fingerprints and handprints to eliminate that from what they had collected.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to present, it's on the PowerPoint we're going to show tonight, and I will show you them, and I'm going to add them onto this screen, some of the images of the people. And you talked about when you're being tortured. So, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's go back to, you're kidnapped, and you're, tell the scene. You're thrown in the trunk of a car and you're driven, and give kind of the first 24 to 48 hours of what happened after your kidnapping.
Yeah. So they came in my office, took me down to the first floor, and tied my hands behind my back. I was laying on the floor for like 5 minutes, and they took me out the front door of the house, and it put me in the back of a car. Guy puts my head under his arm. He's hit me in the head with a pistol, says, "If you move, I'll kill you." And he grabs my glasses, which I wore then, and threw them out the window, so I didn't have any glasses after that. Anyway, we drove, I guess, maybe 10 minutes. We were still in Baghdad. So we drove around, probably still in the same neighborhood. And they took me to a house, took me upstairs, took my clothes and watch and boots, and gave me some cotton jogging suit to wear. And I was right there for that night. While I was in that room, Robert Torengoy was in there also. Robert was a Filipino accountant who worked on the first floor. I was working on the second floor. And
were you in the same car when you were driven?
No, that's what I was going to say. I didn't know they had Robert.
Okay.
Because they took me in, and I guess they took him in the room before I arrived, because I was laying there on the floor and I heard a noise, and I look over, I can see it's Robert laying on the floor. There was no furniture or anything. It's just a concrete floor. So I was in there, and we were just there all night. Next morning, they give us a little bit to eat. We waited all day. After last prayer at 8, they put Robert and I in the trunk of the car, little green Toyota, and they drive us around. We end up at another little house just outside of Baghdad. We
towards Fallujah. Towards
Fallujah, but not there yet. It was the first 4 weeks we were just in little houses every night. They would do the same thing, move you after
every couple of days.
Yeah, every Friday after 8 o'clock prayer.
Were you still being beaten or abused at this point?
Well, just at first, they would always say, they're going to kill you for this, or they're going to kill you for that. Don't move or I'll kill you.
Right. Were you handcuffed and blindfolded at this point?
Yes, they had like a ski mask on us, and then they put masking tape.
They'd be under your head for forever.
Well, it was
20.
The first 3 days. That's the way it was. And I had handcuffs on, and when they weren't moving me, my feet were tied with zip ties. So that's the way it was all the time. Anyway, when we would get to a place, they would just be there and tied up and just trying to figure out what's going to happen. On about the 4th week, they had the sheikh, head of the family, come in, and he's talking to me. And like we've talked before, when at that time in Iraq, there were 2 kinds of gangs: one political gang who want to make a political statement, one who wants money. Right. And I didn't know which gang had me. I didn't know if I was going to be dead at the end of the week because of a political.
Did the sheikh talk to you?
The sheikh talked to us. He talked to me. He had me on my knees on the floor, and he didn't speak Arabic. He didn't speak English, and I don't speak Arabic. He had one of the guys could speak some English, and he said to me, "We're going to ask you some questions, and if you lie to us, we're going to kill you right now." And I said, "Okay." And so the sheikh started talking, and he was asking me where my family was and if I had any kids. And they said, "Well, what's the telephone number for your family?" And I didn't like this question at all, because I know what they're going to do. And, they're going to call my family and say, "Well, if you don't give us money by the end of the week, we're going to kill your dad." So I tell him I don't know the phone number. And he says, "You're a liar. Tell me your family's phone number." And I told him, "Well, I don't know them because I had them in my cell phone, and you guys left the cell phone in the office, and I don't remember what they are." So he has a pistol. He puts the pistol in my mouth, and he says, "If you don't tell me your family's phone number right now, I'm going to kill you." And I said, "Well, I don't know that number." And it wasn't like I was being super brave. I didn't know the number because what I told him was the truth. So he pulled a gun out of my mouth, and we move on to other things. But stuff like that.
Was this the sheikh or someone else?
It was the sheikh. The sheikh said that.
Did you knew nothing about the sheikh other than the name sheikh? You didn't know a name?
No.
No reference?
No.
Did you get any suspicion that he might have been a professor or educated? Was he an educated?
Well, he seemed to be more educated. One thing I could notice, although I was blindfolded, I could see down a little bit.
So you couldn't see his face?
Couldn't see his face. Okay. I could see their feet. They all wore sandals, like all Arabs do in that area. But he didn't. He wore slip-on loafers. So I could always tell it was him because he had these brown loafers on. Everybody else is wearing sandals.
So I'm going to show. Well, we'll talk about it tonight, and we're gonna do the maybe some of the slides from my research. But the Iraqi cop was the one that led us to the sheikh, if we're talking the same individual, because the sheikh ended up being I call him the CEO of Kidnapping Inc. He had his hands. Did he seem like he was overall running the entire operation from your
yes, all the gang members deferred to him for everything, and you could tell he was giving the orders,
right?
That he was the
guy
in charge.
You were still in just outside of Baghdad at this point.
Yes.
You weren't in Mahmoudiyya Yusufiyya yet.
Yeah, no, we left Mahmoudiyya, and we're like somewhere between Mahmoudiyya and Fallujah, I would imagine.
Yeah,
little house.
So if the Sheikh's who I think he is, from what my research was, he was a professor at Baghdad University and an imam of the Baghdad Mustafa Mosque at Baghdad University. And he was not only, now I'm curious, did you and Florence Amanas ever talk about her kidnapping? Did you guys ever share what happened while you're in the?
I asked her how she was kidnapped, and she told me she had gone there
to
to interview a
Correct.
sheikh.
Yeah.
And that.
Did you think it was the same person?
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
This is a special report.
Knowing how to invest your money is harder than ever before. Dealing with stock market volatility, record debt, and terrorist attacks requires new thinking. At U.S. Asset Management, we can help you see the world more clearly so that you can move beyond the chaos and invest with confidence. Call us, visit us online, or drop by our office. U.S. Asset Management, helping you make better decisions with your money.
No, it didn't occur to me. I thought it was somebody else. But
so that's the thing. He was inviting journalists to come interview him at the mosque, and then as soon as they left, his henchmen would kidnap the victims, would kidnap the journalists.
Well, that's exactly what she said. She said she went to do the interview. Her and her translator got in the car.
Yep. They didn't get out
of the compound. As soon as they left the compound, got on the road, they got kidnapped.
Exactly. Well, so did Joanna Segreña. Exact same interview, same sheikh. So we were I'm pretty convinced that this sheikh, he became Moby Dick. He was my white whale. I looked for this guy literally for the last year and a half of my tour.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because we had his 13 of his org chart. 13, I think 12 to 13 man. And again, this was from the Iraqi cop, some of the journalists, because again, when the journalists started getting kidnapped, and then of course the journalists investigated how they got kidnapped, that it was at the sheikh, at the mosque. They had gone to the meeting with this sheikh, and then the sheikh's name kept appearing again and again.
Yeah.
So ultimately, the sheikh is something else. But let's move on. So after the first month or two, you eventually ended up in the long-term holding site. Right. It was just south of Baghdad, and Mukmadiyah used to be Mahmadiyah, right? So describe that experience and how many people were there when you got there, and just go through that narrative about being transferred down there. And now you knew this was now going to be your holding cell till the end.
Well, we after about 6 weeks, they take us to again at night. We pull up this little farmhouse, and they take me in, and we get in one of the back bedrooms, and there's a hole in the floor, and they walk me up to the edge, and I don't know what it is because it's just black down there. One of the guys puts his arms around me and lifts me out over that hole, and I'm thinking, don't drop me, because if you guys break my leg, nobody's going to do anything.
Right.
And another guy jumps down in the hole, and because my hands were tied,
of course.
And so
but there were stairs.
No, when we first got there was nothing. There was no stairs. It was just concrete walls. And nothing.
But it was like for storage, right? For food storage or something? Because it was like an underground subterranean cellar.
It could have been that. I mean, could. I don't know if they purpose built it for hostages or it's just a storage building, but room. Because it was only about 4 feet high,
right?
About 8 feet wide.
But I have the dimensions. I went in there after you got rescued. I went there twice, so we kind of it's in the schematic, and it's in the PowerPoint I'll share tonight at the dinner.
Yeah, it wasn't a very big room, but when the first night Robert and I were in there was nothing. Over time, they got tired of lifting us in and out, so they did put some stairs in, and they would bring food. They eventually brought some blankets, and because it was winter
and it's cold. It's cold.
So and there was no heat or anything. So they did. Eventually, it did get some things in it, but originally it was just empty. And
you two were the first in there. There weren't any of their hostages.
Right. Robert and I were the only ones in there for first few weeks. And that's after we had been there for a few weeks and not moved. That's when I started thinking, well, they're liable to keep me in here and Robert until something happens. We're rescued or there's a ransom paid.
Right.
And that's what they did. A few weeks later, Florence, the French
reporter, right?
Showed up with her translator. But before she came in, the guards came in, the one who could speak English. He said, something's going to happen tonight. And so we have to get you ready And what they did was they put cotton in our ears and put extra zip ties on our hands, and they put cotton over our eyes and put masking tape around our head. And they said, when this happens tonight, you don't say anything, don't move, don't listen, don't do anything.
Were they attacking you in English?
Yes, they're telling me that in English.
Was it who was it? Was it? Could they all speak English?
No, there was only one guy.
I was going to say.
So when he was there, knew something was going on because he would be there to explain to us what's happening.
Did you see the sheikh anymore when you moved to the new location?
No, okay. No, because during some of the conversations with him, the sheikh's the one who told me, well, we're going to get $12 million for you because the U.S. government's going to pay your ransom.
Right.
And I said, no, they're not going to pay that.
Yeah, they're not.
But after that, I didn't see the sheikh. Sometimes he would be around because I could hear him and I recognized his voice.
Would he come down to the house?
He would come down to the house. One time, the guards came in. We were always eating rice and a little bit of chicken, or that's some tea. That's about it. One time, the guards brought down a chicken shawarma, and they said, "Oh, the sheikh came from Baghdad, and he brought everybody a chicken shawarma."
And they gave you a shawarma.
Yeah.
Was that the first, probably decent meal you had the whole time?
That was the only good food I had the entire time.
Wow.
But
so the video, remember the video that was made around Christmas time, maybe early January? Where was that video made? Was that down?
It was made in that house because they took me up out of that hole, set me on the floor against the wall, and they said, "Sit right here. We're going to take your picture." And I thought they were going to take still pictures or something. But then the guy who spoke English came and sat down beside me. I'm blindfolded in handcuffs. I knew he was there. He was talking to me. And he said, take this. And it was a little scrap piece of paper. And it had the script he had written. He gave it to me. He says, memorize this. And I'll be back in 15 minutes. And we're going to do a video of you saying what's on that piece of paper.
Please asking for help because my life is in danger.
Right. And that's what you read.
And that's how that video came about.
Wow. So we got the video, and as I was telling you last night, a young Iraqi boy ran up to one of the hotels where all the journalists were staying and just ran up to a Westerner and handed him just a CD and then ran off. And it was NBC News, Carla Bruni, I believe. But they put the CD in, and then they saw your video, and then they called us, and then we went out and met with them, and they gave us a copy of the video. And that was the first proof of life we had that you were alive. Mm-hmm. And we could tell by the growth, you started growing the beard out. We kind of estimated you had been held at that point, maybe 6 to 8 weeks. Is that fair? Yeah.
Yeah.
And was that the only video that they made of you?
Yes. They made that video in January, and after months and months and months, I thought, well, they might make another one, but they never did anything.
What about when what happened to you when there was an incident with Bush being reelected or something that they got upset about?
Oh, that they would listen to TV, and one of them came in and was bringing the food, a handful of rice and some chicken. And he said something about, do you know who won the election? And I said, I don't know anything about anything. I'm here with you guys, and I haven't seen TV in months. And he says, well, Bush won again. And then he
smacked you in the head.
Hits me in the head and leaves.
Yeah. So they didn't like President Bush.
No.
Yeah, I can imagine. So talk about the conditions. I mean, you obviously were not getting enough food. Mm-hmm. What was your weight when you were captured? And then what was your weight when you were rescued 311 days later?
When I was captured, I was about 165. And then when I was rescued, they weighed me at the hospital after the rescue, and I weighed like 130. But it was, the food would be, happy cow cheese, the little triangles. Mm-hmm. I had a different relationship with those things. They would give you breakfast would be 2 or 3 of those cheese slices and some tea. And then lunch would be some rice and maybe a piece of chicken, maybe not, maybe a piece of lamb. I'm not a big lamb fan, but I learned to eat it.
Sure.
And then for dinner, same thing, a little more rice, maybe a piece of chicken. And that was it. That was it.
And you were, I'm assuming, constantly starving or thirsty. I mean, you constantly said,
yeah. Well, there was no, they would only bring water when they brought the food. So you would have a little glass and they would fill it maybe half full or 3/4 full of glass. And that was it. So you get that 3 times a day, hopefully.
So you're not even getting a liter of water a day?
No. Just probably not even a 16-ounce glass, maybe 1.5 of those.
Wow. Man. And so mentally, what, and you described a little bit last night with talking to the crowd about the things you had to do to mentally escape from the hell you were going through.
Yes. Well, I mean, like I said, you don't, when you're in that situation, you don't want to think about, well, what's going to happen tomorrow or what's going to happen later today, because there's no way in hell you're going to know. And it's always the worst thing could happen in the next 5 minutes. So I would think about things that would get me out of that room, because I didn't want to be in that room. So I would think about my house in Memphis, things I needed to do the house. I'd think about my daughter in California and taking a trip driving across country and going to see her and things to do out there. So I would always think of some other trip or some other thing I was going to do to get me out of that room. Because in that room, I'm tied up, not getting enough food,
and
not getting enough water.
Blindfolded, right?
Yeah, blindfolded. And so whatever it took to get out of that room in my head,
right,
that's what I did.
And eventually there were others that were brought in. At one point, how many total were in that space with you?
The most that were in there were 10 people. And it was just, you're sitting next to somebody and they're touching you on each side. The little room was so crowded.
Right.
There wasn't enough room for everybody to lay down on the floor.
And as you described, and I have the video when I showed you the pictures we took, those metal racks like from a ship that were hanging from the roof, so they could put 2 people on the beds and then the rest on the floor. So was it 4 this way, 4 this way, and then 2 in the racks to get 10?
Right. Everybody was on the floor, and there were 2 metal racks hanging from the floor.
And you had to sleep on one of those metal racks.
I was on one of those racks. But if you turned over, like my shoulder would be on the rack and my other shoulder would be touching the ceiling. So it was just barely enough room to turn over.
Navy, that's what the Navy.
Yeah.
And it was metal, right?
It looked like
torture. It was almost like you're on a torture rack.
Small twin bed frame with locked wire springs, but with nothing on it.
Right.
You're just laying on the wire.
I mean, the metal just must have gone into your back and your neck. I mean,
well, you don't want to move the wrong way, because
right,
those little things will catch you.
And then eventually you got a piece of cardboard.
Yes, right? I asked the guard who spoke English one time was there, and I asked him if he had any cardboard I could put over those metal springs, and he actually brought one down there. I was shocked he did it, but it was a bigger piece of cardboard, which doesn't sound like much, but it helped a lot in keeping the springs covered.
So what was it like for everyone? Did you guys try and communicate to each other? Were you trying to maintain some type of sanity or humanity with your fellow prisoners?
Yes. Well, the guards would tell us, don't talk or we'll kill you. If we hear you talking, we're going to kill you. And it's like we're in that little room, and they're in the room right above us.
Were they sleeping in that room, living in
that
room?
They were living there, sleeping. Okay. They would eat up there. You could hear them eating. They watch TV. You could hear them turn the TV on. You could hear them talking. And so we, at night, would whisper to each other.
And what would you share? Like, my name's Roy, I'm from here, and try and share that.
And not at first, because you didn't know
You
I
trust-
talked to them, but you didn't know who these people were.
You didn't know if they were.
And if they started torturing them and said something to them about, did you talk to anybody down there? And they said, oh, I talked to Roy. And they say, well, how do you know his name's Roy? We told you not to talk. So didn't do that at first. But what I did do is when I knew a person their ransom was being paid and they were going to leave, like Florence.
Right.
And with Robert Torangoy, well, Robert already knew me, but with Florence, I told her all of my details because the gang had told her the French are going to pay and they're going to have the money here in 3 days. And so we're going to come down here in 3 days and take you in.
And they admitted that. They said that to everyone. So you all knew what was happening.
Yeah, that's what they told her. And she told me. Anyway, so when she said that, I started giving her all my information because I knew when she got out, she'd be debriefed on what happened. And I wanted her to tell somebody I was still there and I was still alive.
And was she the first release or Robert? Who was the first that was released?
Yes. Florence was the first, and then the Romanians, and then some of the Iraqis. And then at the end, it was
Robert the last?
Robert and I were there. And then Robert was told the same thing. Filipinos are going to pay the ransom. We're going to come get you in 3 days and take you in. So I was talking to Robert, telling him, be sure and tell him I'm still here. Right. And then Robert was gone, and I was.
Well, Robert was the first. So when we have been talking to the Filipino delegation every week, we met them at least once or twice a week for the entire time. And then, of course, we knew from some other intelligence that they were talking about paying a ransom. And at one point, we got the ambassador involved to basically alert the mission in the Philippines about what was happening, because we were desperate that if Robert was paid out, that we'd have no longer connection to you. And then we had the opportunity. We were given the phone number of the kidnappers. And, as I said, I got burner phones and, gave it over to the FBI to go make a call. And the FBI basically fumbled the call. The kidnapper said, hey, we want to talk money. And the FBI agent basically was like, well, I don't have the authority to talk about money. And the kidnappers were like, why are we talking to you? And they hung up. And there was one more call where the FBI agent, again, and when you do a negotiation, you want to drag the call out as long as you can for obvious reasons. And he again said, well, I don't have the authority to talk about money. And the kidnapper said, well, we're going to sell Roy Hallums to Al Qaeda. We're going to get our money. Roy Hallums is going to be a dead man. And that was the last conversation. I got to go back and check my notes, but I was probably late January, early February. It was early on. It was about 4 months after the kidnapping in November. But from that point forward, we had nothing on you. Like your case went completely cold. And we were tracking the French case and tracking the Romanian case and the Filipino, because we were meeting with us, not the FBI, but we were, because we were looking at all kidnappings in Iraq, because every day, as you know, kidnappings were like a daily occurrence. And when Robert got released, a girl on our team, she was a Filipino, Elena Asban, a DI analyst, amazing, great intelligence officer. And she was on the debrief because she spoke Tagalog. And the first question she asked Robert, she goes, well, when were you and Roy separated? When was the last time you saw Roy Hallums? And he said, oh, Roy coughed next to me in the cell. He was with me last night. And that's when we found out that you were still alive. And it kind of became a game changer, because in about a 4 or 5 week period, the Romanians, the French, and then we didn't know about the Iraqis, but they were released. And then we got the debriefs back from the French and the Romanians, and everyone admitted that there was an American named Roy. And I got to go back a little bit, but they connected the dots from the description of the bathroom you guys used, like the innate detail of the porcelain. There was some blue or something.
Oh, pea green.
Yeah.
It was like they stole some army green.
Well,
and painted the back.
That's what ultimately was one of the things that broke, to realize that everyone was being held down there. And as I understand, we had the task unit had rolled up an individual who was connected to the insurgency, connected to the kidnappings. He wasn't giving up information. And the interrogator, and he shared this story. He was a an Egyptian American who was in the Air Force, and he was obviously spoke Arabic. And he said, we knew the guy had, he had a lot of girlfriends in Baghdad, more than one, and which is very haram in the Islamic culture. And the analyst typed up a statement about what a bad Muslim he was, and then came to the interrogation room and basically said, hey, we can only hold you a couple more days, as you know, because we can only hold you 2 weeks, and you're not giving us anything, and we're going to have to let you go. But before we send you out into Baghdad, we're going to go drop these fires off at every mosque in Baghdad on Friday prayer, which was the next day. Mm-hmm. And the Muhammad, whatever his name was, had read the statement about that he's going to basically get dined out throughout Baghdad, that he's basically doing inappropriate things as a Muslim. Mm-hmm. And he sees the statement and thinks that, that my goose is cooked. So he coughed up that he said, well, there's someone that's involved in the kidnappings. If you grab this one, you will be able to find an American. Mm-hmm. And the unit rolled up that guy. I think they rolled him up like 4 a.m, 3, middle of the night. Mm-hmm. By like 07, he cracked and basically gave up your location. Mm-hmm. And they launched a daylight raid to go get you. And tell us what that was like when you finally. I mean, did you even hear the helicopters? What alerted you in that morning on 311 days into your captivity that this was going to be the last day in that hole?
Well, the day of the rescue, I mean, when I was in that, down in that hole, I could hear helicopters every once in a while just flying by, sure, going on their missions. So I could hear them. But on that morning, I guess it was around 8:30 in the morning, something like that. I started hearing helicopters, which again wasn't unusual, but these started getting louder, and then it sounded like they were landing on the top of the house, which they practically were.
Right.
And 4 helicopters come in, and then I start hearing a lot of running and boots on the floor above me and yelling, but because I was under that floor, it was muffled, and I couldn't tell if they were yelling English or Arabic. So I didn't know if it was gang members who were getting ready to do something, or if it was somebody there to rescue me. And I thought, well, it's too much to hope for to get rescued. And then the little door in the ceiling that the gang would seal each time they left.
With cement, or what were they sealed with?
It was they had a marble tile about 1.5 by 1.5. They would put it in, and then they would seal it with concrete around the trim where the caulking goes.
Yeah, and then would it be a caulking, or would it actually be a concrete?
Concrete.
So then would they have to break it every time?
They would come in, and when they wanted to come down there every 3 days, they would get a chisel and hammer and chisel out the concrete around that stone.
I'm watching my friends gain more and more weight, and then eventually I got to tell you, this is a little dark, but bad diet literally killed my whole crew.
Wow.
Diabetes, a stroke, I mean, all kinds of stuff. It's like, you had a stroke? You're not even 50 years old. You guys got to quit eating this stuff. Your body knows what's what. You're not conscious of this. But that's why people will go to the refrigerator and they'll grab this and that and the other and put together this outrageously elaborate combination of foods. Your body's trying to reach balance. Unbeknownst to us, our bodies are always trying to reach homeostasis. You can't eat all of this stuff and expect to live a long time. And one thing led to another, and I went, forget this. We're going to make our own product. So we partnered with one of the world's top 3 biochemists where nutrition-specific study is concerned. I said, all I want is the best nutritional and immune support product in the world. So we mixed it in yogurt. It's a powder. I got a bag of it here. I keep one on the console all the time, just so I can show people.
Yeah.
And it's a powder. Now, this is not candy. This is hardcore nutrition. And sugar is an enemy. And most people do not know that the reason these bellies are showing up on people all over the place, your body makes fat to store the toxins it can't get rid of. So it just puts them over here. But I can tell you this, you take this for 30 days and then lay off of it for 2 or 3 days, and you'll go, good grief, give me some more. Skin, nails, hair growing back, cut yourself and it heals in half the time.
So every time you were buried the whole time.
Right.
There was no way you're getting out of there.
No.
Even if you had no handcuffs on, there was.
No, there was, because they would go out and you could hear them troweling that concrete over the edge of that stone. But on the day of the rescue, there was no chipping. It was sounded like a sledgehammer.
I think they
hitting the
took a
door.
Halligan tool. Pretty sure they took out a Halligan tool and cracked that open.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
well, when they got it open, a piece of the tile fell down in there, which normally didn't happen. And then I heard everybody talking, and then I saw the laser from their guns come down there, and I knew they were U.S. troops because the Iraqis didn't have lasers. And then first guy down in there comes down in the room, and he just looks at me and says, "Are you Roy?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Come on, we're getting out of here." To the next floor, the first floor, and they had me sit on a couch, and they were asking me how I was and if I was hungry or if I could walk, because they said the helicopters just touched down. They jumped off, and the helicopters took off because it was too dangerous to be on the ground. They said they were calling the helicopters back in. It was going to be about 20 minutes, and we're going to have to walk across the field.
Were you able to walk?
I can walk. That's what they asked me. They said, "Can you walk like 50 yards over to where the helicopters are?" I said, "Well, I think so, but I might need some help." And they said, "You can. We'll help you out over there." Because it's for 10.5 months. I've been tied up and couldn't move.
Right.
So
no exercise.
I know, and
no load bearing.
nothing to eat.
Yeah.
So
you lost 35, 40 pounds.
Yeah. So I was wobbly, but they helped me get over there to the helicopter.
And you were only held at that point with one other, right? It was an Iraqi.
There was the day I was rescued, there was an Iraqi with me that the gang had kidnapped for ransom. He was actually a used car dealer, and they kidnapped him for whatever they could get from his family. Because
he ended up, they handed him over to us. You know, we ended up taking care of him, getting treated at the embassy. We got him treated, but he couldn't walk. He needed assistance to walk. He looked like he weighed about $120. I mean, he was a skinny. I mean, he maybe 5'5", 5'6".
Yeah.
But he seemed to be, I mean, he's very happy when we met him.
Yeah.
He was very, and you said, Sharon, last night that when the unit gave you an American flag and put it over your shoulders.
Yeah.
And the patch, which you still have held on to, the American flag patch from the operator who rescued you. He wanted one too, because he was so gracious to be saved by
Well, he was so thankful. Yeah, he wanted a full-size flag, but they were afraid to give him one. They were afraid somebody would shoot him if he had it. So they gave him a small one on his shoulder.
And you still have that flag, both the small patch flag from the unit guy that pulled you out of that hole, and
Still got all of those,
that's absolutely amazing. Yeah, I'll get some pictures of that tonight, and we'll add it to. We'll interlay it in.
Okay.
Roy, you were a face on my wall for 300 odd days. I mean, I was there when you were kidnapped. I was there getting the intel, what limited intel came in on you, and you were just a reminder to me and everyone involved in your rescue, which were hundreds of analysts, and there was FBI agents involved. There were interrogators. And then to be honest, the operators themselves. But I know you scribbled out a note for us. I still have a copy of that you shared with everyone before you went home. And do you remember writing that note?
Yes,
When did you do that?
We were leaving the Baghdad base, and we're going to Balad, to the hospital, and I was sitting on there, and a young lady came up to the helicopter, and by this time an FBI agent was sitting beside me, and he introduced me and said she was from one of the intelligence agencies, and he said, that they had done a lot of work on my case, and he asked if I could write her a note.
Sure.
And so I said, sure. And so they had a piece of paper, and while I was in the helicopter, I wrote a note and gave it to her, and then we took off for the hospital.
Yeah. Well, they sent us a copy of that, and we got to see that image of the note you shared. And we're about to wrap this up, and any last comments or feedback? You and I have maintained comms for the last 20 odd years. I went out to the site. In fact, I'll share this kind of funny story. We went out with the FBI 4 hours after the rescue and collected the SSE. And it was right when Katrina hit the United States. I don't know if you remember, but it kind of sucked all the news attention. And as I talked to the PAO from the unit that rescued you, she said, well, we didn't get any bounce, meaning we didn't get any positive response that we rescued this American. And then I ran into the PAO for General, the 4-star, this is Lieutenant Colonel Dan O'Shea. And I mentioned to him about, hey, you didn't get any media coverage on it. He said, well, Dan, if we could get a combat camera team out there, we could put this story out there about how horrible the insurgency is, that they do this to fellow humans and Iraqis themselves. And so kind of we spawned this plan to go back out and document what happened. Now, you had just been taken on, this was happening like days after your rescue. And we ended up getting it approved to go fly back out to the 4 or 5 days after the rescue. We went back to the site. I took not only combat camera team, but I took the CNN bureau chief, a gentleman named Michael Ware, this Australian journalist who I thought was just going to write a story. But he ended up bringing a little hand camera, and he documented going back out to the site where you had been rescued.
In mid-December, he was taken to a farmhouse outside of Baghdad and into that dark, airless cell.
Okay, we're going to check it out. This is it.
Just this past Wednesday, some of the men involved in Roy's rescue went back to search the farmhouse in what they call the Triangle of Death. It's considered so dangerous, the unit needed protection by tanks and helicopters. Dan led the mission.
I want to get in here and get out of here as quickly as possible.
He led us into the house and to Roy's underground hellhole.
They had cemented over this. This was cemented over. So unless we had detailed specific information, I would have never known what down in here.
Over the concrete, the kidnappers lay that carpet, and over that, a refrigerator.
You can hear them putting fresh concrete over that door. You're sitting in this room, totally dark. There's no way to get out because that room, the door had concrete over the top.
So. Completely sealed in.
Yeah.
But imagine this being your home for 10 months, 8 months, 7 months. And
5 days later, I had to jump over the wall by myself and go kind of clear the building because I didn't want Michael Ware or any, the camera team to get in the middle of something. And I was worried that maybe a local was still there. I'd jump over the wall and I'd meet some guy with an AK-47 in my face. But I cleared all the rooms, and I saw a battery. And we talked about that last night.
Yeah.
And then I was like, holy crap, is there some type of, and I thought the battery was used for those fans inside the cell, but you said they were used for what do they use?
Well, they use that battery, like some of the hostages that came in, especially the Iraqi man who he owned a trucking company, and he told me they had hung him upside down by his feet in the room upstairs, and they had that battery, and they would ask him questions, and if they didn't like the answers, they would shock him with that battery.
Wow.
And some of the operators who were there when I was rescued, they pointed out to me that battery, because they said that they saw that setup at different places that they went to try to rescue people. And some of the places they thought I was, where I wasn't there, because they had done other missions. And he said those batteries are always used to shock people to get the information that the gangs want out of them.
It just goes to, again, that sheikh was an imam. He was a college professor in Islamic study, and he was orchestrating all this. And that's what people need to understand, which is why we documented that story. We wanted to get that story told, because it was, people just didn't understand. And it wasn't just that they were targeting journalists or aid workers, but they were targeting fellow Iraqis, fellow Muslims.
Some of these Iraqis, one man they brought in, one of the 10 that was with me, he was an old man, had a white beard, which now I did too. But it's like I don't know how much they were going to get for him, but $500, I don't know.
Oh, we interviewed in a sheikh, the tribal elder. He would have a long white beard. Man must have been in his 70s. And when he was brought in my office, he could barely. He was still. It was hard for him to get in, and I noticed he had some gauze around that didn't have any ointment or anything, but just someone had wrapped some gauze around. And I ended up getting the doctor at the embassy to come and take care of him. And when they took off the gauze bandages, the handcuffs had been so tight on his wrists and his ankles, and held for how many months he was held, had broken into the skin, almost to the bone. The damage was almost to the bone, just from how tight. And this was to the senior elder of a tribe, a very prominent tribe in Baghdad, and he was targeted. So the levels of barbarism to fellow Muslims was just beyond the pale, and it's something that doesn't always come out. But it's a miracle you came home. I mean, of all the there were, again, there were 448 kidnappings of foreigners and 44. And Roy, you were the only American out of that 44 that was rescued in a deliberate hostage rescue mission. It's something that, with all the capability we had, just shows how hard it was, how it truly was a needle in a haystack. And it's a miracle you're home. And I always wonder how you've always seemed to be so blessed and always even killed. And there's something special in you, Roy, because you didn't go through SEER school. You weren't a SEAL. You were in the Navy, but you didn't get any kind of specialized training. But you had the mental fortitude to endure and survive. And then you seem to be, I think you'd wake up every day and feeling blessed to be alive. And
I do.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we got to play a small role in bringing you home. And, and it's always great to see you. I always enjoy it when we get to do documentaries together. And,
we've done a few of those.
And we're in Virginia Beach. We're going to be tonight at the Silent Warrior Foundation. Roy and I are going to share these two perspectives, his perspective of being a hostage for 311 days and my perspective with the hostage working group, looking for you every day. And Roy was one of the miracles we brought home, and we're all thankful for it. Great to have you back.
Thank you. Glad
Take care, Roy.
Thank you.
All right, guys. We'll get this posted soon. Thank you. And this was our second podcast, Into the Lines, Dan. I can't imagine a better guy to have on board. All right. Take care.